This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do.
What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the lean builder, Hoots on the ground with no bullshito. And today, I got my man, Dominic Desmarais.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I got it right for a change. Dominic, super excited to have you here with us. Where are we?
I don't know. It's a beautiful place. There's birds singing. I think we're in Japan.
Yeah,
Kyoto, Japan, and IGLC 33.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ohio gozaimasu. Yeah, super excited to be here. Dominic, before we get going too far, I just want to educate the Lean Builder Nation on who you are.
Who am I? I'm trying to figure that out myself, actually. It's been a long journey, but no, I'm Canadian, so I live a little bit north of the States. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. I've been on a lean journey for 20 years.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah. Work for a general contractor, and I go about, coach teams, try to learn as much as I can, and try to make a difference in the industry. So.
Beautiful. I love it. Can you take us deeper?
Oh,
Who are you as a person?
Oh, you want to go deeper?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a small town guy.
Okay.
Grew up working on a farm. Always been really interested in the work. I like to do things myself. I was sort of raised in working the soil, get dirty fingers, working hard, sunburns, and that sort of thing. And as I went through school, I've always found this things interesting that we separate the thinkers and the doers. Like the white collar, blue collar concept never really made sense to me. Work is work, and do you have hands?
Yeah.
One third. All right. Do you think you have
A lot. Too
you,
much.
You like the things?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So you have hands, you have a brain, you can think, and you feel things. You have emotions.
Yes, I feel
All right.
things.
All right.
Yes.
So almost everybody, right,
Yeah.
likes to do things, interact with the world, likes to think about things, and likes to build community and have relationship with others.
Feeling is real. Yeah.
So how do we bring all of those three things in the work that we do? Because to me, that's the essence of the motivation. I made a talk in Calgary, right? That's the first time we met in person.
Yeah. We're wearing sweatpants. And...
Yeah, with sweatpants and slippers on stage doing a keynote. But yeah, to me, how do we get people motivated, and that's the concept of respect for people, or respecting people's humanity is really at the heart of all of this. And I don't want to get too academic here, but to me, the separation really started 100 years ago, and it's deeply ingrained into everything that we do, and we just got to get people back together.
And I love it. So the Holy Trinity, I'm sure you've heard of that. That's what you're kind of making me think, like the Holy Trinity of motivation to work, or work in its entirety, would be between the mind, the hands, and the heart.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, because the example that I gave is, why is it that we pay people to go to work and they just drag themselves sometimes, right? And you don't want to get to Monday morning, it's a long day of work, get tired, maybe not motivated, or you're not operating in an environment that's motivating. But just put that in parallel with sports. So hockey in Canada,
baseball in the U.S.
You got baseball, football, basketball. But when you think about it, like, you go with your friends to play baseball or football, and you don't get paid for it. You're gonna sweat your balls playing as hard as you can.
Yeah.
You'll hurt yourself, right? And you're okay with it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But why is this? Is because you interact with the ball or the basketball or whatever, right? So you interact with the world physically with your hands. You use your imagination or your brain to do creative plays. And then you get to celebrate your success and your failures with people, right? So sports connects your humanity on all three levels. And to me, one of the things that demotivates people at work is when one of those three is shut it down or not leveraged to their work.
I like where you're going, and you started to kind of answer some of my next question, but tell me, what are you passionate about? Like, what things get Dominic going?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I love learning, and I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. I collect books. That's a problem.
But you read the collection.
Well, so if you bring this back into the lean concept, I have a big buffer pile.
Okay.
Yeah. I buy book faster than I can read them.
With the amount of recommendations you've given me.
Yeah.
Goodness, yes.
So I used to tell people that I measured my reading in inches. so I read like 12 to 14 inches of books a year.
Nice.
And people say, "What? Like, why would you do this?" Well, this is how I know when I need to build my next bookshelf.
What a great metric.
So I know now because I moved some books out of my office, some of my wife's books. She was not impressed with me. But because I moved her books out, I got 2 years left before I need to build another shelf now.
I love that metric. Well, what are you reading right now? What books on that?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, I'm going back to school. Mid-40s, it's my midlife crisis. I didn't want to buy a car, so I've gone back to school. I'm doing a master's degree now, and I intend to try to go do a PhD eventually. So I'm reading books on design work and how to manage design work. I'd like to do some research around the last planner system or any production planning control tools that it applies to the design phase. I've had a little bit of issues there in the past, or it's not working the way that I'd like it to go. And anything. I mean, I have a really broad range of interests. Like to read on economics. I got a trip coming up in Scotland in the summer, and I'm going to be rereading The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith and trying to figure out what are the real foundation of how we operate in the West. We're here in Japan, and you might have noticed some cultural differences.
Wow, well, let's talk about those,
Yeah.
can we? I mean, I'll just put it straight up. The one cultural difference that I've noticed is patience.
Yeah.
The amount of patience for people and willing to put the Japanese people willing to put themselves, kind of subordinate themselves to others has been very profound to me, and somewhat of an awakening, just burning in my heart of wow, coming from an American culture, especially where everything is, let's prioritize me versus if I'm walking down the street and there's a elderly Japanese lady, she's going to move out of my way so that I can go through, or they're going to offer me the seat on a subway, and it's just unheard of. So I mean, that's the number one thing, patience and subordination of self from my perspective. I'm dying to know what you've learned culturally.
Well, the no harm, no disturbance. I think that's how. I think the concept is called WA.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, you can see it when you walk in the metro station. It's busy, right? There's like 19 million people living in the greater Osaka, Tokyo area. And you walk on the street, right?
Oh yeah.
I haven't bumped into anybody.
I just realized that.
Right? I haven't.
So what is this concept? Because I've probably been.
Well, it's not disturbing others, and so you see it when people walk on the street. They get conscious of everybody else, and they try to avoid you and not get too close to your space. Like personal space is interesting. I was in the train. You've taken the metro, right?
All over, yes.
And in the metro system and the train, people don't talk. Right? It's very quiet. When we took the ride from Osaka to Kyoto, not a word. An hour and a half ride, not a word was spoken in that train. But the way that so I was doing a little investigation as to why this happens, and it's really about we don't want to disrupt our neighbors with noise, because a lot of people do a lot of long train ride here, and they take the time to rest in the train. Like I was standing next to a gentleman, and he was standing up holding to the bar, and I'm almost sure he fell asleep.
Standing up.
His head was bobbing, and Like, this is just, we're not used to this, right? You walk in a metro in North America, it's loud.
Hey, I'm not American. Where are you gonna be? Or the sound from a TikTok. I mean, you say that, you make me think of the job site I walked with Takanaka, who amazing organization.
Yep.
Got to walk one of their jobs. Their number one concern was their neighbors. They have neighborhood meetings regularly to make sure they're not disturbing their neighbors. Their work hours are centered around the community.
Yeah.
And it feels like that same concept. And the perimeter of the job site,
Clean.
wow, not just clean, but impeccable, like remarkable.
Yeah, I took a picture. We asked the gentleman from Takanaka why they're using these white panels around the job, and he says the color had no meaning, but they chose a material that the dust doesn't collect on,
Stick to,
and so it's going to fall down. And he was also talking about there's a sign on the outside of the job site that has a number, and that's the amount of decibel.
Yeah, there's a nighttime and a daytime decibel. Like in the morning, you can only have a certain decibel until lunchtime, and
So it's interesting, but to me, I think the biggest sort of realization in this trip is that the idea of continuous improvement and respect for people is, and we can talk about continuous improvement, as I also had a realization that I don't think it's the right term for us in the West, but I don't think it's a Toyota thing that we're bringing into construction, or that it just is a matter of lean in terms of production or construction or manufacturing. I think this is a Japanese society fundamental values, and that is permeating or going into all the organizations that are working in this economy. You see respect into everything. You see improvement into, we can't eat and drink while walking. You've seen how clean this place is, right?
Well, take your trash with you. That's another concept, right? You want to talk about let's minimize waste. Well, you keep your trash with you because you can't find a trash can on the street anywhere around. And they see the world different here in Japan. You see it with the children, so disciplined and listening. I feel very attended to if I walk in a door. It's like all eyes. It's really a hard thing to explain with Western or Eastern words.
Yeah.
But it's a feeling that you get.
Yeah, that there's something culturally. I walked by an elementary school on the way to the conference one day, and the children were in the landscaping, weeding things out before class in the morning. Like the children clean their own schools here.
What a concept. Yeah.
Well,
the people who make the school dirty also cleans.
Why? Well, the other thing that I'm just realizing now is because you can't eat and drink in hallways, the school probably is never dirty.
Fair.
It's always
Except when they host international conferences.
The rest of the world comes here and we're just pigs. But it's ingrained from a very young age. And the gentleman from Takanaka was saying at the conferences, we don't need to teach these concepts to our people, right? We don't need to teach them organization. We don't need to teach them the need to having clean job sites. We don't need to teach them to be respectful and clean after themselves. That's part of who they are.
Their parents have done that growing up.
Yeah. It's just part of the norm. So I haven't seen, I don't know if you have in tour, I missed the tour unfortunately, but I haven't seen a handoff of areas between trades, but I would expect that the handoff is done in a very clean and respectful way. And so in the West, we're going to spend all this time trying to make that part of our job site culture. They don't have to do it here.
Yeah, they've started ahead in the race. I mean, we're back here trying to get warmed up and stretching, like, let's learn this clean 5S thing, and they've already been living it. It makes me think about our time, because we got to spend some good time together. We went to the International Peace Museum.
Yes.
And so there's obviously a big, long history with Japan and what's happened over the last 100 years. And so I wonder, in question to you, like, how much of that has impacted the way the Japanese think, and or is that what it takes to reset a world?
It's a good question. The safety moment that we had at the conference. Remember the safety moment? Was around, what do you do if an earthquake's hit?
Oh, yeah.
Right, so Japan is at the intersection of three tectonic plates. There's
been several here.
Right. So lots of earthquakes. The big one a few years ago that damaged Fukushima nuclear plant. I don't know how they got to where they are or why they got to where they are, but there's been a tremendous amount of suffering in World War II. There's the bombs, right? We saw an area and images of that, the firebomb in Osaka, and that was poignant. Yeah. But if you look at, perhaps it's a little bit of what happened there, and all the natural disaster that could happen here to society, and the fact that it's an island. There might be a little bit, I don't know if I want to say close of a society or more self-reliant, but they have a different religious background, right? We toured some Shinto temples and Buddhist temples and Confucianism, I think it's the right way to say it. So the Eastern philosophy plays a role, and the environment that they live in.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the resources. You've got to kind of take care of what you got a little bit better.
And how condensed you are in land. I mean, you have a lot of land in the U.S. We have a lot of land in Canada. We're way emptier than you are. But land for us is not a real problem. Our cities expand. I am shocked at how little cars there are on the street here.
I'm shocked I haven't seen a car accident yet.
Right.
At all. Not one.
I haven't heard a police or ambulance siren.
Yeah, I've heard of firefighting sirens.
Or firefighting.
Yeah, that's wild.
For a city for an area twice the size of New York.
Yeah, and likely more dense as well.
So how do you go about change? Yeah, I think it's Coder's book, right? That says you need to create a sense of urgency, or you need never let a crisis go. I can't remember that.
I'm sorry.
I know. All right.
It's been a long week in Japan.
Yeah. Well, somebody said you never want to let a good crisis go to waste. So how do you make good out of a tough situation? I think they've had their fair share of crisis, and they've somehow leveraged this, which to me ties a bit to this idea of continuous improvement. So the English translation is from Kaizen, but Kaizen doesn't mean continuous improvement. Kaizen means change for the good. And there's three things to me that are not said, but perhaps is implied, is there's change for the good, there's change that could be bad, and there's change that could do nothing or be irrelevant. So what we want to focus on is change for the good, but knowing that the two others also exist. And also that is about change. To me, the implication of continuous improvement is we're already on the right track. We just got to get better at what we were doing before.
That's pretty deep.
Which is different from change, because sometimes you have to change track.
Yeah, I think being a lean practitioner, even though I'm not a big fan of that word, and we can talk about Jefferson's comment before in a while, but being a lean practitioner, I find what you just said pretty humbling, because all of the change I introduce is for the good. So I'm being facetious.
Yeah, the intention of being good.
Correct. I think that's a better way to put it. And yet some of the change I introduce is not good for the people we're trying to change. And then also it's like, so why do we chase change for the neutral, a change for the bad? I don't think it's a chasing thing. I think the realization you just had is like, hey, the intention is good, but the outcome is either neutral or negative.
Could be, yeah.
So what's the indicator there? Like, how do you realize, what's the concurrent control system to say this change is not Kaizen, this change is neutral or not for the better?
You're trying to bring me to your paper.
Maybe a little bit. No, I'm not at all. This is the only, thanks to Dr. Milberg. Yes, it's a fantastic paper. But is there an indicator to you that you've seen that, like, as you're teaching groups and teams, it's either not going through or not registering in the way that has changed for the better?
Well, if it's not helping people, if people are frustrated, if it's not helping the outcomes, and people are doing it reluctantly.
But what tells you, like, what tells you that?
Talking.
Oh,
Being present in the moment,
Fair.
listening, watching, observing. Yeah, I've been on job where we tried to deploy the last power system, and people that doesn't feel natural to them. They don't. I'm not going to keep pushing for something that will make people miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a smoker for years. I always give this example. I was a smoker for years. Many people tried to get me to stop smoking. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I got frustrated with people trying to patronize me.
Yeah.
And
Probably made you want to smoke more. Damn, I know I need a cigarette.
right. But one day I was ready and I stopped. And I know it's hard, but I often do the same thing. If I have friends that I deeply care about, say, hey, you should stop this. I'm not going to pound on them because I don't want to create frustration on top of their smoking habits.
Good friend of ours, Jesse Hernandez, says, listen with your eyes, see with your ears.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I have to meditate.
You should. I couldn't even say it. So, what are you taking from here? Hold on. Before I go there, how would you define Kaizen then? How would you give us better terms than continuous improvement?
It's good change or change for the better. We always say in the West where we got resistance to change. I think change has been embedded in the culture here. Change is a good thing. Society's changing. I'm raising my kids today in a completely different society than where I grew up in.
Lots of new tools.
And some of it is better and some of it is worse. So we're starting to see legislation in Canada, and I think it's happened in Europe as well. I don't know. I haven't seen it in the U.S. That's not the sort of news that makes up our way in Canada now. Everybody talks about tariffs and that sort of thing.
I'm really resisting my joke here. I just want you to know how hard this is for me. Okay.
I know there will only be 50. All right. But just think about cell phones. There's lots of benefits, but it's starting to prove that it has a negative impact on children's learning. So,
see that
right.
So they're passing legislation to kind of cut back on.
Yeah, removing technology from the classroom because people and it's starting to cause addictions and kids are struggling when they're away from there. It's my first conference here where I brought an iPad to take notes. And I'm taking notes because it's convenient. They're stored everywhere. You can carry them with you. You don't have to deal with paper. And as I'm going through my thing and tapping everywhere, I'm watching David Umstattd actually is sitting right next to me with his little book and his pen, and I'm like, I should have brought a paper book.
I bought one from Kyoto University's little bookshop right there.
So is technology a good change? It's a good change in many circumstances. Is it a change that can also do nothing or provide no benefit? Yeah. And is it a change that in some circumstances can be negative? I think it can. So I think you got to look at how things evolve and it's just reflect on, are we going down the right path or not?
I think that's a great start. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is I've led improvement events before where we took a problem, we got a group together, we tried to solve an issue with good intention, got benefits, but now we created new problems.
Oh.
And back to your paper on the steel, the gripper tool.
Unilink, yes.
Unilink, yeah.
Yes, sir.
They solve problems, but I'm sure they created new ones for themselves.
Absolutely.
Right? And so,
being on the job site daily, I can tell
right.
you. Yes.
So they had a good intention. They created a solution. They solved some problems, but new one will emerge. So out of that good change, there's things that came in that maybe were not as good that got created by this change. To me, it's always sort of looking at both sides of that coin, if you will.
Yeah, and you spoke right to what I was going to say. I loved your example before where, this technology has good, neutral, and negative components to it. And for each person that experiences that change, those three categories of change will also be different. You might have the discipline to put the phone down and not use your technology and be here or present more, versus someone else with an addictive personality may not be able to control that. And so I think we're getting into some of the complexities with change right now because each person experiences change in a different way. Yeah. So leaving, this is the last day for me anyway. I think you might be here a little bit longer.
Yeah, staying the weekend with some friends, some Canadian friends. We're going up to Tokyo.
Nice. Well, being it's my last day, I'm kind of in this reflection mode of, okay, what did I learn? And more importantly, like, what am I packing in my suitcase, theoretical suitcase, to take home with me to unpack to the rest of my part of the world?
Yeah.
And so I really want to know what that looks like from your perspective. Like, what are you putting in your theoretical suitcase?
What am I taking back?
Yeah.
I'm taking back that quote.
Oh, yeah. Let them have it.
So I should have read, I'm going to paraphrase here.
Yes, please.
So question was to the gentleman from Naka, Jefferson from Takanaka, what is lean to you? And he said, lean is a Western word that is trying to describe many things that are difficult to comprehend.
Yes. Hey, that was much better than your LinkedIn post.
I think,
You're getting more to the finish now. I like that.
So what I'm gathering is I think we're trying to discover the functioning of society here through the lens of the Toyota production system. If I can, to me, it's backwards. It's what is it from the culture of the Japanese culture that is enabling what the Toyota production system is. And I think we're trying to go backwards in the West, taking the system and now saying the culture that we have doesn't fit the system. So the one thing that will be my reflection is, what is the starting point? What is the starting point in Canada, or where I live, or where you live? What are the norms that we live and operate by that we might not be aware of, that we can build from to come up with a way to manage production, control production, make improvement, change the lives of people? What are the things that we're not aware of or seeing that we could start from to make something more successful for us at home? I gave this example a couple times, right? I'm French Canadian. There's 7 million of us in Canada, I think. And when I went to Western Canada, people said, "You want some French fries?" And I said, "What is that?" Because for me, the fries are not French. They're just fries. And so the same sort of question was asked here, like, what do you think of lean, or what is lean? And they didn't seem to know what to answer.
Yeah. In fact, most of the people said they're just starting their lean construction journey.
Yeah.
And we laughed.
We laugh because we're doing design. Like, this is the cleanest job that I've seen. There's so many innovation here. I can't believe you're respecting people that way.
Yeah.
You can't be just starting. And so I think that's my biggest reflection here is what is it? And I might be working on a paper on that.
Yeah. Let me know if you need a co-author. I want to write something with you, man.
Yeah. The idea was to actually look at it from a multicultural perspective. So I'd love to pick a person from several countries in the world. And that you got to know John from Norway, and there's Annette in Germany, and so there's people all over the world. And I think we have a common problem with a different starting point because we have different cultures. And I wonder if reflecting on the attribute, each reflecting on the attributes of our own individual cultures, would actually give us a better perspective on perhaps a different approach to.
Why do I feel like this is going to be a very complex thing for me?
I don't know. Why?
I'm going to have to think about that. Hearing you talk about that feels like I might need a committee on my side to really try and understand that American starting point. You have my mind in this kind of weird spot right now where if we are starting with the cultures that we have, right, maybe the end product doesn't look like Toyota production system, or doesn't look like what we know lean today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of a messier job site in some cultures. I've heard great researchers, great studiers have messier desks.
Right.
So from a cultural standpoint, like, if we are starting from somewhere different with our mindsets, then that end product will likely not look the same all over the world.
Yeah. And I think it's okay. We don't all need to be the same. There's value in sort of diversity, right?
100%.
If you're going to spend more time and resources trying to have a clean site
The benefit of having a clean
Clean
site.
site.
Yeah.
then which one is the waste? Because is the goal to have a clean site, or is the goal to be more productive?
Well, the
That-
goal is to provide more value to the
Customer,
client
yeah.
through having a clean site and being
Yeah.
as productive as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, so I'm really early in that reflection here. I don't profess to have any answer, but that's where my mind is heading, is what seems to be the two pillars. They're not Toyota pillars. They are society pillars, Japanese society pillars. And and so,
What are those pillars?
well, the
Could you put 'em in
continuous
words?
continuous improvement, respect for people. But
Okay,
the
the
pillar,
concept.
the pillar, the Toyota way. Yeah. So, what is it for us? It's interesting why the Japanese are looking at lean, right? The one person was talking about they used to have 100% Japanese workers and 100% designers on their team. And now with their population change, they have to start to bring foreigners, and that causes some challenges because the foreigners that are coming in are not used to the culture
A
here.
different starting point.
Right.
Yeah, Dr. Nagoya, I think.
Yes. And so that's why they're interested in lean.
Yeah.
It's to figure out a way to, I don't know if I want to say manage, but to collaborate with, in part, collaborate with foreigners on their job site. They're looking at what we're interested in too for a completely different reason, right? We try to be like them, and they're trying to be like us in a way, or use the tool that we've developed because they see it in our context. So same word, different objectives.
Yeah. Yeah. We see that often in the research community. So I hear you, and I accept the answer. However, it was a very academic answer.
Yeah.
This is a very practitioner-focused
Right.
podcast.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, no, I love the thought, and believe me,
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
But what I'm after is, for the folks who have never been to Japan, they might never get to come and experience what we've experienced.
Yeah.
What tangible things are you going to take? Like, I'll give you a perfect, for instance, the feeling of when somebody bows to me.
Yeah.
And I walked into a Hankyu department store right when they opened at 10 a.m. in Osaka, and every single employee lined up this long hallway, and every person that walked by, if you made eye contact with that employee, it was a full-on bow.
Yeah.
And so, to me, when I go back to my job site, that's just one thing I'm going to do on my job sites. When I pass a trade partner, I'm going to kind of just give them a bow.
Yeah.
And I think that's something very tangible that I can do that's very easy. I don't have any back problems or anything like that. So is there anything that you've seen on this trip or experienced, witnessed on this trip that, again, tangibly you can take back and do back in Canada?
The very small step in action that I think we have to verbalize it's your questions, because here it's natural. They're trying to not negatively impact their peers. It's just they don't have to speak it. To me, I will ask the question, what can I do to help you? Or am I disrupting you in any way? I think
Okay.
those are little things that you can do, or you can. Some people in the job sites already think that way. They don't want to disrupt or negatively impact others. But I don't think that. I think it's something we can reinforce. I might try to get myself one of those water tanks to put on my back.
And Sakai-san, he sent me it, and
Yeah.
so I can send you the link to
yeah.
where you can do it. Mark.
Yeah,
That's a
so,
great idea.
so we should just explain it. So
Can I
You go ahead.
I want to give the background, and
Right.
you can explain
Yeah.
it. So we're at the World Expo, which also happened to be here in Japan
Yeah.
during IGLC, and we are listening to a bunch of really important people from each of these pavilions who were explaining how they used lean while they built the expo. And so me being an American, just, hey, raise my hand. Hey, I got a question. How did y'all celebrate and take care of the worker while you were building this building? And to which I was met with probably a 30 to 45 second pause.
yeah,
And then I would say poor descriptions from around the world of how they took care of the worker by letting them come to the happy hour after the event was built and you can have a drink, which, yeah, okay, we celebrated, but we only did that one time as a result. And then, please, the Japanese gentleman spoke up.
Yeah.
And will you finish that story?
Yeah, well, they provided food, so that's one thing. And it can get pretty hot and humid air in Osaka. So they had somebody with a water tank on their back and a hose and water cup, walking the job site, going to see workers, asking if they're thirsty and if they needed a glass of water.
Unbelievable.
Here's a cup of water,
Yeah,
right?
let me serve.
Let me serve you some water. And I think it both hit you and I. Like, we tend to think about all of these grandiose ideas. It's hot. People need to drink.
Yeah.
Offer them water.
Take them water. Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's something in Canada. I'm sure it's the same in the U.S. Sometimes we're not going to put facilities on a multi-story building because it's inconvenient, right?
Yeah.
Or we're not going to bring water on a large job site because it's inconvenient and it's cost. So what end up happening? Well, people are thirsty.
Yeah.
So they leave their place of work to go get a glass of water. Right. And what's the cost of that versus somebody bringing water to people where they are, where they're thirsty?
Mm.
Right? So yeah, to me that was a very simple and yet powerful thing of showing the importance and the value of the worker.
Caring for that community.
Yeah.
I mean, he also mentioned some things like nap rooms that they had on the job site.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And that was in a response to heat stroke from some people.
Yeah.
There were a couple other things that are escaping my mind right now. But nonetheless, it was very much like, hey, how can I serve the people who are doing the work? And honestly, that was the answer I was hoping for.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, there were a lot of countries that brought their own labor here.
Yeah.
And so it really makes me think about those different construction styles. And quite honestly, if we want to really dive into the cultural starting point of job sites, what a great research project that would have been to be at the World Expo Center as they're building, going from country to country to see how that labor is
Treated.
Yeah.
Yeah. When are we going to see a nap room in one of your jobs?
I mean, I go to my truck and I sleep. But yeah, I do. I take naps at least once or twice a week, and I'm fortunate enough to have a truck to do that in. But yeah, I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon, unless it's like in a hot porta-john somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, my point early on is what can we do? There's cultural norms that are not. I can't see myself coming to Canada and implement nap room on job sites, but
Not immediately.
it might take a while. Yeah.
But and could be abused. Here's an interesting thing that I learned. I was talking to one of the Japanese people, I can't remember who, I apologize, but they said like trying to help or respect or not want to impact their coworkers.
Yeah.
A lot of times in the Japanese culture, when there's an employee who is trying to do work and they can't quite do it, or it's really overwhelming to them, the Japanese culture is not to go and help and assist and be with that person and help them get the work done, even if you don't have anything else to do. Here in the Japanese culture, it's the norm to allow that person to struggle. Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know
that piece. And so really, when you were talking earlier, it's like I believe we have such a misguided view of respect in where the part of the world we come from, because the normal kind of easy button piece of respect is, oh, that person's struggling, I have to go and help. Like, let me go love on that person, swarm the problem, take the burden off of them. But there's actually flipped view of respect here, where it's like, hey, if I go and help and remove that burden from that person, I don't truly respect them. I'm just enabling them or training them to rely on others. So there's certainly a balance of this, I believe. But that one really caught me by surprise. And that when you were talking earlier about the sense of community and respecting others, it's like, where's that line of where we're respecting them by helping them or respecting them by allowing them to learn through struggle? Any reflections?
Well, you want to develop capabilities. I mean, I think maybe we were too focused on outcome production outcome and not enough on developing the crafts. So they have these intricate ornate of plasters and buildings, right? You remember that? And so they were using technology, putting sensors on workers' hands to sort of record their motion as they're doing these really intricate plasters. But what shocked me about, and it was in the context of robotics, so they wanted the robots to be able to do it. But the other thing that the person says is, we're losing this crafts, and we're looking for a place to store the craft. And so they're storing the crafts of the workers through technology, through recording their hand motions, and they'll have that in the database. So I don't know what they're going to do with it later, but you could imagine reusing this information later down to do something. I'm not sure why I got down that path.
No, I think it's a beautiful thought, because we're losing trade workers at an alarming rate. In fact, here in Japan, they're just losing people at an alarming rate, and that's heartbreaking. All of a sudden, we're getting a little bit more scientific about the way we teach trades. It's not, because there is so much of an art to it, especially, you said plaster, but I'm going to call it finishing drywall where we come from. It's like, I can't finish drywall to save my life. In fact, Whiting Turner has a picture over a section of drywall that I finished, and they would never let anybody fix it because the VP always wanted to harass me about it. But if we were able to track the hand motions or movements of people who are good at those artsy kind of crafts, that we would be able to better teach or inform, help people understand ways of the trade before that. So I think it's a beautiful example. I guess one of the other things I want to touch on here is visual management. And Paul Ebbs gave me a fantastic quote. He said, visual management systems are a one look, common understanding that provides a provocative response. And
interesting.
So,
okay.
As we're walking around Japan, and even walking down at the buffet this morning, big red arrow, can't miss it. Right? As long as you read your paper before.
Right.
Talk to me about the visual management that you've seen here in Japan, and what have you witnessed?
I've witnessed. Well, and the transportation system is probably the most obvious one. Little arrows on where to walk that shows you where to go. You can follow lines on the floor. The color system for the train. So even though you don't speak the language, you sort of can figure out.
You've only been lost one time,
right? Your way through. So
that Osaka loop's hard to find.
So it's everywhere on the table, right? They give you a little card that says I am. Because it's a buffet, and so the table could have people or not people. Sometimes you leave your table, right? To go reload your food. So you have the little card that says, I'm enjoying breakfast, and then you flip it over and says, I'm done. So people in the room know, or in the restaurant knows. It's just in the train system, they tell you which wagon to get in. I don't know if you've noticed this. So Google Map tells you, go in this station, walk in this door, and if you want a quick transfer from one line to the next, go on wagon number 2. And as you're walking in, they tell you where to stand. You walk on the floor, you look across if you look across the station, and it says these 4 entry lines are for wagon number 2.
And they're off to the side just a bit. So.
So the door opens, and then the 2 lines waiting to go in are on either side of the doors. People walk in the middle. And when everybody's done going out, then you go in.
And the discipline's unreal.
I took a picture of that.
I can't tell you how many crosswalks that I stood at, and I waited with hundreds of people around me and 0 cars, trains, anything coming down the road, and I'm just like, I'm trying to step, but I can't.
So I'm not sure what that is, but there's something around the efficiency of moving people. And
how about the escalators? Have you been up any of the escalators in a very populous area? Have you noticed that everybody was just standing on the right if you were just wanting to stand?
Oh yeah, and then on the right,
On the left-hand side is a beautiful path where if you're in a hurry,
you can run out.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's full of tourists who are just standing
Bang,
around, not paying a bit of attention.
Yeah, and talking and disrupting
The
the
people
flow.
around them.
Yeah, I think it's around the efficiency of movements of people, and I'm not sure where that comes from in the culture here. I don't know if it's the size of the areas or if it's back to this concept of causing no harm to others. So they're trying to remove chaos into all of the society moving by providing simple guidance, visual guidance. Yeah, visual management is everywhere. Yeah.
Well, we saw it on the job site too. When we went to the job, there's a big stage. There are a bunch of cones on the ground. And I went up to the cones and I'm like doing the Google Translate thing, and each company had their own cone on the job site. And so they knew right where to stand in a line so that they could do their stretch and flex in the morning. They had a video behind them of the stretch and flex movements. All their signage was posted there, very easy, all written in Japanese, but very easy to understand and interpret. And the expectations on jobs. When they left, each person had tie-off points. They had to actually put it on, roll it down, and take it off to show that they had it before they went to work.
Yeah.
Things were just different.
What about the story about we don't cover holes?
Yeah. Well,
So there's holes, right? You walk it. The story was on the job site. There's holes in slabs, and we in the West cover this with plywood so people don't fall in holes. And then you walk on jobs where they don't cover holes.
yeah.
And the lady's like, it's almost like the Japanese person look at them and say, well, why do you fall in a hole? Well, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but it just shows you the difference in thinking. No, we don't need to cover holes because we don't have people to fall in holes here. But, I mean, we're laughing about it, but to me, it's back to this. We talked about this self-awareness. Like, I haven't walked into anybody in a week. Not once have I bumped into somebody. And so if you're that aware of your surrounding, maybe that's why you don't fall in holes. Maybe we're too distracted. Maybe we're self-centered and distracted.
A little overburdened as well. I mean, so, and for the record, the job site that I walked had holes in the open were covered.
Oh, they're covered.
There were areas next to scaffolding that somebody could step down, but there was netting below.
Yeah.
The safety was a big eye-opener for most people there. All they had were hard hats, and then they had shoes with steel toes. So there were no vests, no gloves, no safety glasses, none of this stuff. And that was one of the comments that was made in the debrief was, it seems like the safety requirements are very relaxed here. And we got a very similar answer as the whole opening is, we were disciplined. We're very self-aware. When we know that we're going to do something that causes eye harm, we're going to go get safety glasses. Now, I kind of have mixed feelings on that.
Yeah.
The vest, they said, well, why do we need to put vests on people so that we see them? We see people all of the time. And that was really powerful for me as well. And so the other thing with safety shoes is, I can't remember, you might have been the one to mention this or not, but how much more of a problem are we introducing by making people wear these big, heavy boots all day long and then walking around job sites, right? It can't be too comfortable or good for ergonomics and that sort of thing.
Well, I think we're trying to prevent people from twisting their ankles. So if you walk on a muddy, uneven ground, that could happen.
It could.
And if you walk inside a building that has litter all over the place, that has cords laying all over the place,
I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
Right, yeah.
So the environments that we're creating
requires you to have taller boots so you don't roll over your ankle.
Yeah.
But the moment you turn the building over to clients, right?
Yeah.
Did they keep wearing? Did they have a requirement for high boots? So it's not the building that requires you to wear high boots.
Right.
It's the environment that we're creating. So that is a bit of a takeaway, is that we protect against the environment that we create. And if we don't take care of the environment that we create, then we need to add additional layers of protection. And then we add additional layers of protection that gets in the way of people doing work, and then people take shortcuts. And then once they take their shortcuts, then we discipline them. and we invest in supervision, you can see the technology. We're going to invest into drone and cameras so we can tell if people are wearing safety glasses or their hard hats, and then we'll send you a report and we'll tell you who they are, and so you can go talk to them and say, yeah, you could do that, or you could make the job site safe.
Or teach discipline before you have to discipline. I mean, you're talking to me about like compliance versus, and I hate to use the term, but continuous improvement.
Yeah.
It's like, are we checking the box,
Yeah.
or are we truly getting better?
Yeah. Are we designing a system that is healthy for workers versus throwing workers in an unhealthy environment and then demanding that they protect themselves?
Putting the onus on.
To me, that perhaps is one of the key things that you let this section with that question is, I think they're very intentional about creating a system that is healthy for humans and causing no harm. Because I don't think we do this on purpose. I don't think we expect to injure people. That's not what I mean. The level of care around creating that system here, I think, is a notch or 6 above where we are in North America anyway.
And so I got to interview Thomas LeMay while we were here too, and one of the things he talked about was systems thinking and not designing a system, right? Is designing a system, because there will be systems whether you want them to be. And so yeah, I love the thought of the intention and care, sincerity of designing their system ahead of time. When I think about this, for me, I go back to my kids. Do you want to move? You want to rotate?
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless that looks weird.
No, you just, I can
the
feel
sun-
you
the
like
sun
10
is
degrees
okay,
hotter than me right now.
Yeah.
It's-
Let me just put some sunblock.
Yeah.
I need a tan. I'm Canadian. I'm pale whited. Let me get some tan here so when I get down to the States, I don't burn like a lobster. Yeah.
So, you make me think of how I got into the construction industry, right? And I didn't design this. I was 17, and my dad made me be a plumber so that I would not go to the construction industry and be a trade worker and have to work with my hands forever. Which, again, no shame in that. It just was too hard for me personally. But I didn't design the system of my career. I kind of just fell into it. Yeah. And so one of the things I'm talking to my children about is like, okay, how do you design your life? Right? And taking just a simple visual of a timeline, right? Here's your birthday, here's your death day, whenever that might be. Here's where you are now, right? You're 20% into your life, 15-20% into your life, and like, where are those next milestones? What are you going to look at? And so, because I want to engineer them the best advantage that they can have in this world. And so, but that's where my mind goes, is like on something so important as a career, and being like designing happiness into your life and being very intentional about that design to match what you're passionate about. So I guess the question to you is, how do you design your life, or what does that look like from your perspective? What is your system down here?
Well, I have a CPM schedule. I've had one since I got married. It was part of the prenup.
How often do you update it? Are you behind schedule?
Yeah,
What's your earned value percentage rate?
Well, it's a little bit behind, so I put my wife on notice. No, it's interesting. So I don't know if your audience or the audience have this, but I use a milestone strip on job site, the milestone plan, the master plan, and the last bar system. So I have one of those little strip in my office at home with the years, and I think it goes up to 90, so I'll probably be on the other side of the grass by then. So I don't have a rigid plan, but there's going to be milestones in life that I know I need to start thinking about, that there'll be change. Right? I'm good, thanks.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
You don't want to wear the lean builder hat?
Oh, I can wear the lean builder hat.
You need it, man. You need it more than me.
All right.
Yeah, now you're an American.
Yeah. American. Yeah.
Come on, 51.
All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all good. So the kids will get to high school. Eventually the kids will get to college, university, workforce. I might retire one day. I don't see that happening. Yeah. It was Glenn's 80th birthday this week. It was your birthday?
It was my birthday.
You're sharing.
Me and Dr. Ballard
share a birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. And
First time I met her too.
on your birthday. No,
Yeah.
I met him
A couple of days before,
Yeah.
but we celebrated with some geishas in Japan.
Yeah.
That's a memory.
Yeah, that's a memory. So we're building skills in our children, and we're putting them in as many things that we can afford, so we can see what interests them.
Yes.
We try to not put any, you gotta go to college, or you need a university degree, or don't do this or don't do that. So we're really trying to just have them experience things, and we'll see where that takes them. They have their own unique strengths, they have their own unique personalities, and I'm actually okay not knowing. You saw the presentation so I think this is a bit of a way that I live life, or try to live life, maybe. So when I did this presentation you witnessed in Calgary, I always build my thing with branches. And so I go down a path, and then I get to an intersection, and then there's a bit of a probe, and then I watch the reaction, and then I either go left or go right.
Yeah.
Deeper or not. So to me, it might be, the philosophy is not be overly rigid about expectations and where we're going to go, but
have some direction.
There's a sense of direction, and there's points where you ask yourself, am I going to do this or am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And I think that's how I try to raise my kids. And I think it's good for a career as well, right? I don't think we're in a day and age where you have to spend the next 50 years working for the same company. I think companies would like this, but you do something for a while, and hey, what's next for me?
Yeah.
And I mean, I started as a manufacturing guy, and I'm in construction. And to me, the only reason I'm here with you is I'm curious.
Yes.
And when somebody said, hey, what do you think of that? I have no idea, but let me think, and I'd be interested to come in and give that a shot. So it's worked for me. I didn't speak any English before 2006, and
wow,
your
English is fantastic.
And it's getting there or somewhere.
Very well.
But yeah, so in 2006, there's an opportunity to go in Western Canada. Yeah, I'll take it and see what happens. There's an opportunity to go work for a GC. Yeah, I'll take it and we'll see what happens. So it's just openness, I guess. That's openness.
Spongy mind.
Spongy mind. Yeah, I don't think anybody has the right answer. I don't think the right answer exists.
Wow. Yeah.
And so if the right answer doesn't exist, there is just a whole bunch of answers. And if you just want to find what answer speaks to you, you just got to ask questions.
I love it. Heck yeah. Well, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is to be able to work on my question game and learn from all these lean builders with their time and to find a better way. And so we're coming down to the end because I'm about to go blind now.
Yeah.
And I want you to keep the hat on.
All right.
And I'm going to get out of the frame, and I just want you to give the message to the lean builders of the world. Like, what is Dominic's message to the lean community, to around the world? What do you want to contribute?
All right. We in the West, for maybe 100 years now, so we were all born into this idea. We take it for granted. We're separating the people who think and the people who do. We've separated them in our schools. We're separating them in our industry. We have trades and engineers. If white collars, blue collars. I would love for the next 100 years to be a place where we get back together and we stop this intentional division, so we can learn from one another, perfect our crafts, and develop better humans, because that is the only way that we will be able to create a more prosperous, harmonious, and interesting future.
Because that's just what lean builders do, baby.
All right,
Dominic. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Arigato gozaimasu. Arigato gozaimasu. Don't
A good
squeeze.
pleasure.
Yes.
Don't squeeze.
Back at you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're the jam.